Hi everyone! Thanks so much for tuning in today. I'm so glad you're here, and I cannot wait to share with you what's new here at Be Cozy Stitching. So grab a comfy chair, get your favorite beverage, and we'll head on into the workroom and I'll show you what's new. Now, we're here to talk about Inchies this week. Now, Inchies are a 1-inch cut of fabric that are inserted into any size block that you would like. And the magic happens because no matter what size block you cut, if it's a 5-inch block, 6, 10, 12, 14, doesn't matter. Whatever size block that you cut, once you insert an Inchie and you sew it back together, it is exactly the same size block as when you first cut. Now, can you see the possibilities for using this lovely, lovely block? Not only can you treat it as one fabric once it's all sewn back together, you can also make patterns using it just the way that it is with the Inchies. You can cut it apart and make half square triangles with it. You can, anything you can imagine, you can use this block for, because the block size doesn't change. That's how the magic happens. Now, the magic can only happen if your cutting is accurate and if your piecing is accurate. You do need to make sure that you have a true 1/4 inch seam in order for this magic to happen. So what you need for supplies, a bunch of string scraps, wide enough that you can cut 1 inch out of them. So these lovely scraps are going to become these lovely scraps. I have cut mine to the size block that I want to use for this challenge. They are exactly 1 inch wide. As you can see on the ruler, they are exactly 1 inch. Okay, so then you need to have some kind of a background to put them into. So I'm using this lovely fabric here. And I have cut my piece off of my fabric to the size that I want to use for my challenge piece. And it's up to you how you want to do that. You can leave it one long strip, cut it apart, insert your Inchies, use it as a border. Totally acceptable. You can cut it down to sized blocks, which I think is pretty much what I'm going to do here. And then you can, without giving away my size, then you can go ahead and cut it and insert your Inchie into that prescribed piece and then sew it back together. But that is the magic of the 1 inch block. Let me pull that back here so you can see it a little better. That is the magic of the Inchie. No matter what size block you cut, if your seam is accurate and your cutting is accurate, once it's sewn all back together again, it will be exactly the same size as when you cut it. So let's go over to the sewing machine and let me show you a few tricks to help you achieve this perfection, if you will, that you need in order to put this pattern together. Now, if you're totally stumped for your Inchies challenge, you don't know what you want to use it for, I've given you a couple ideas. You can use it as a border around something else. You can take the blocks and you can cut them apart and sew them into something else. You can use them as they are, and you can always, always use the book, The Magic Inch by Weeks Ringel and Bill Kerr, to give you more ideas for quilts to make for this challenge. So let's head over to the sewing machine and we'll go from there. Okay, just one quick second before we head over to the sewing machine, I have a couple of things that I want to talk to you about. First of all, when you have your little scraps, don't be afraid to use your best press, your spray starch, whatever you have to stiffen up your fabric. Excuse me, I got a tickle. You want to give yourself every advantage that you possibly can. Make sure that your pieces are ironed well, and that they're nice and stiff. Because remember, we're working with scraps. And so you want to give yourself the best possible outcome for cutting that you can. So a little bit of spray starch, nice and stiff. It comes out perfect every time. You get a better, more accurate seam. The other thing that you need to think about, excuse me, is you want to make sure that you've got enough contrast between your Inchie and your background fabric. So contrast is very, very, very important. So when you're picking out your fabrics, audition them. Make sure they're going to work before you go to all the trouble to cut them. You don't want a strip in there that you can't see very well. This one's kind of borderline because my background is light and the fabric is light. So I think I would toss it aside for something a little brighter. I mean, see the difference? It's just a 1-inch piece of fabric. So you need all the punch out of it that you can get. The other thing you want to pay attention to is the design on the fabric. Make sure that the scale is smaller so that you get more interest. The bigger the print, like this one, the more boring it's going to get because you've got more wide open spaces. Okay? So pay attention to scale. Pay attention to value. Light, medium, dark, depending on what your background fabric is. My background fabric is light. So I'm going to stay away from light colors to insert as my little Inchie strip. I'm going to stay with the medium value and the dark value. If you question it, toss it out. There's plenty of other fabrics you can use. Okay, so now that I have that, really, truly this time, let's head on over to the sewing machine and I'll show you some quick tips and tricks to help you have success with your block. Okay, so now we've cut apart all of our pieces. We have our Inchies, we have our background, and we're ready to sew these all together. The fun part about this is it can all be sewn together chain pieced. It is a phenomenal pattern, if you will, that gives you some mindless sewing so you can relax and just enjoy the process. You don't have to stress about remembering, where does this go, where does this go, where does this go. It's just a very simple chain pieced project, and the magic happens once you put all of your new blocks up on your design wall and you move things around and decide how you would like your layout to be. So I told you we'd come over to the sewing machine and I'd show you a couple recipes to help you get some success in doing your piecing. Now everybody knows that there is a 1/4-inch foot, and a 1/4-inch foot is wonderful, but as you can see, you need to line everything up with the 1/4 edge. You need to make sure that your needle is placed exactly at the 1/4-inch mark. You can use your ruler to help you get that accuracy. Some machines you have to move the needle to get it to be the exact 1/4-inch that you want. Others you do not. You just set it all up and away you go. Some of you have the dual feed or the even feed. If that works for you, go ahead and use that. That's not a problem. Now, I personally, because this is my mindless sewing project, the one where I just get to sit and enjoy the colors as they go by and think about my day and think about, what I need to do upcoming. Pretty much I'm just sewing so that I can do a brain dump at the same time. I like to set myself up for as much success as I possibly can. My 1/4-inch foot has what they call a gate on the side of it. And I love this foot because I'm just putting the fabric up next to the gate and I'm going. And I get my perfect 1/4-inch every single time. So whatever foot you like that helps you achieve the results that you're looking for, Go ahead and get that on your machine and get yourself set up and ready to go. I will go ahead and put mine on because I can't sew without it. The other thing I want you to do is I want you to locate the length, the stitch length on your machine. Because we're working with such very small pieces, you need to bring your stitch length down. What would normally be a 2.2 or a 2, whatever your manufacturer recommends for your sewing machine, I'd like to see you come down to a 1.8. I'd like it to be smaller with 10 inches or 10 stitches per inch versus the 12 stitches per inch. You need to bring the stitch length down closer together because we're working with such small pieces, and as we're manipulating the fabric, it has more of an opportunity of working the stitches loose. This way you've got success. Once it's together, it's going to stay together. So make sure you bring down your stitch length, put on your favorite 1/4 inch foot, and then it's just a matter of lining up your pieces. Now you want to line up your pieces to give yourself the most success that you possibly can. So you're going to make sure that your top meets and that your sides meet and that your bottom meets, and that way it's kind of a double check. You know you've got the right size cut out, and you know you're going to have success once it's put together. So once you have that, it's up to you. If you want to pin this so it doesn't move, by all means go ahead. But like I told you, I kind of just want some mindless sewing going on here. So I just feed mine through, and again, I leave it up next to the gate. I push my fabric right up next to the gate, and I've shortened my stitch length. I've got a guide down here that I can use so that I know that it's going to be a true 1/4 inch when it's done. And once that piece reaches the end, I go ahead and I grab my next one. I don't really have a plan for what colors are going to go next to what colors, and I don't really care. So at this point, I'm just grabbing fabrics, 2 fabrics, and I'm putting them together. And I will get picky later when it's up on the design board and move my fabrics around so I don't have 2 like fabrics next to each other. And if I don't like 2 colors next to each other, I can move them around and make sure they're somewhere else. But that is the magic behind putting together your little Inchie. Now, for my project Inchie, I'm going to go ahead and put these together. And it's okay if you see the color fabrics that I'm using because it won't matter. And maybe you'll see something that you like that you can use in your project. But it's very simply sewing one side on. And I'll leave my little chain pieced ones over here. And then you're going to open this up. Now, when you do your pressing, the seam has to be pressed open and flat. And that way, if you're going to come through and cut it again, it's ready to go. But because it's such a small piece, we want to keep this as flat as we possibly can. It helps with the quilting when it comes to that point. It helps with the piecing. So again, you just want to make sure that your seam is open and flat. Then once that's done, you grab the other side that you cut off, you line it up, you stitch it down, and make sure your threads are in the back so you don't end up with a little bobble in the beginning, or make sure you use a leader ender so that you don't have that problem. And I'll tell you, this project would make the perfect leader ender. It would give you all kinds of free blocks that you don't even have to think about as you're going along. And once you have that side done, then you're going to open this back up again. And I will zap this with an iron so that it's done very, very well. But for example purposes, finger pressing works just fine. But I will hit it with an iron once it's done. So you've pressed your seams open and flat, and when you turn it over, this is the magic inch block. And that's all there is to it. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what you all come up with. Don't forget to post your pictures on our Facebook page, our Instagram page. Hashtag them on Instagram to the Magic Inch or the Material Girls Quilt Challenge or Being Cozy Stitching. Those are the 3 hashtags you can go ahead and use. We'll come up with something really neat to give the winner. The winner will be picked by the Material Girls Quilt Guild. They will go through all of the pictures and all of the quilts that are handed in through the guild, and the one that they like the best, and it's just viewer's choice, and it will be anonymous with names in a bucket. And once they decide who the winner is, you have until April 1st. April 1st is the deadline. After April 1st, we will not accept any more into the challenge. But then after that, we'll find a really neat PDF file download pattern for the winner, and then we can help spur on their creativity. Thanks for joining me this week. I hope you've been inspired. I hope you'll give the Magic Inch a choice. Join our challenge. We can't wait to see what you come up with. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye for now.